Hello, thank you for joining me today on Minding Your Life with Dr. Blessing. I hope you're doing well. Today, I want to talk about a topic that came up while I was in a conference earlier in the day. An issue of children and mental health came up, and a question was asked about what do we do when we have children, and we need to address with them how do the emotional health, the mental health issues. How do we go about doing that? Because it's something that a lot of people don't do very well with. And also, when we talk about mental health, we focus a lot on adults and the younger ones, the children and the teenagers. A lot of times, we have a hard time knowing how to address them or how to deal with issues of mental health with them. And it was a good discussion that we had about that, and I thought this would be a good topic to be able to talk about today. So I'm very, very briefly going to talk about that because I just want to bring that to your attention, that it is very important that we address emotional health, mental health, brain health issues with our young ones. It is very important for us to start to address these issues when they are very young, because then it allows them not only to be able to express what's going on with them, for us to be able to know how to start dealing with emotional issues that they're struggling with right away when they're young, but also it helps them as they get older to know how to address these issues, and also to know how to be able to express themselves when they are struggling with mental health issues or with any other emotional problems that they're going through. So again, this is not a big issue that I'm going to talk about today in terms of time. I'm just going to touch on a couple of things on how to be able to do that. So first and foremost, yes, like I said before, it's very, very important that this is something that we address with our families, with the young ones that are around us. So you definitely need to have some time that you take to check in with them, with our young ones. As some of you know, I have two young children, and I do my best at least once a week to ask questions. When I used to pick them up before we got into this pandemic thing, when I picked them up after school or at the end of the day, in the car we start talking. How are you today? What happened in school? What happened at the program that you went to? And as time continues, we'll talk more about how are you feeling. What are the things that made you feel good today? What are some of the things that you struggled with, or that you had a problem with? What are some of the things that made you feel sad? So it is important that we take time to check in with our children, just as you take time to check in with yourself, with your spouse, with other people around you. It is important that you start doing that with your children, especially when they're young, because then, like I said before, they start learning how to be able to do that. And also, you give them a voice, you allow them to be able to express what's going on with them. Also, sometimes we go through things as families. Sometimes we have deaths in our family, sometimes we have trauma happen and other things, and sometimes I've seen that happen a lot of times where the young ones are neglected in terms of trying to really help them express and go through what's going on with them and how they are dealing with this. And in fact, a lot of times we try to protect them by putting them away. But then the problem is, whether we like it or not, they just went through the same thing with us. They just went through this trauma or the loss, just like we adults do. And not being able to address that with them can in some ways come back and affect them. So it is very, very important that you take time to check with them. Sometimes they may not have the language for it, or to express how they are feeling, but the truth is there are things going on with them. They have certain things that they're feeling about what has happened. So it's really important that you get to know your children, you get to know how they are in terms of their emotions, in terms of the developmental stage that they are in. I know that I talk about certain things and differently with my 8-year-old daughter than I do with my almost 13-year-old son. So it is important to know who they are and how they are and how they deal with things, because then you can notice when things are happening with them, and you can also address some of the issues in terms of how they can understand. I will not be talking to my 8-year-old like she's 16, because she is not going to be able to understand, or how what I'm trying to communicate with her. So it is very important to know the level that they are at, and know how your child is emotionally, and how they deal with things, and address them accordingly. I know sometimes, especially for the younger ones, you can use stories that they're used to address certain things with them. So it can be things that they're reading, and shows that they are watching, Bible stories that they've learned, can be some of the ways to help them really understand the topic that you're going over with them. So again, that first part is be able to get to know your children, know where they are, know how they are dealing with things by checking in with them. Talk to them. Talk to them. It is very important. And some of us didn't learn how to do that growing up. So you work on, doing that. And sometimes some of those topics can be a little difficult to deal with. Some of those topics can be awkward. Those kids might, especially the ones that are getting a little older, the teenagers, they may roll their eyes when you start talking about certain topics, but that's okay. It is your job. It is imperative that you make that time and you make that point of having those discussions with them. And by the way, if you're not discussing it with them, especially as they start to get out there in the world, they are going to learn about certain things. They are going to learn how to express themselves and talk about and deal with certain issues by what they are learning out there. So you want to set a foundation for them from home in terms of how to more appropriately deal with that. So again, if you don't teach them at home, if you don't work with them at home, if you don't check in with them, they are going to find a different way, and sometimes it may not be the appropriate way out there to be able to deal with some of these issues. So please take some time one-on-one to talk with your children about what's going on with them and how they're doing. And again, when things are happening within the family, make sure you check in with them also. And if you can't do it by yourself, then get extra help to be able to do that. Also, another way to be able to address things are through family meetings. I know some of you are able to do, that once a week time that the whole family get together. It can be, a once a week family meeting that it's really set at a specific time and day, that you use that time to check in with everybody within the family, how they're doing, what's going on with them. Again, if there's something within that is happening in the family that needs to be addressed, then you can be able to use that time to see how everybody is doing in those areas. It can be something that has already been set before, but then you check in now, how is everybody doing with those issues. I know I've had some families that I do family sessions with to deal with grief and loss, and then I give them assignments to continue when they do family meetings on how to be able to work with each other and express their emotional issues with each other, and how to be able to talk better as a family. But that's another time and another place to be able to do that. Now, it can be something like I said, you set a time and a day each week that you do that, or it can be something that comes up. Now I will caution about only waiting for something big to happen to be able to do that. If you make it more of a regular thing that is happening every week, every other week, where the family get together just for a short period of time, you can be able to accomplish that and make it more consistent. Now, you can make it where a certain amount of time is for family meeting like that, and maybe the rest of the time is, you play family games, you do some stuff together that continue to bond you as a family. Do maybe a family dinner, something that is fun after the talk. But also you use this time to go over family rules, to check in with everybody, see how everybody is doing. So this is another good time when you're having your family meeting to be able to do that. Also, another way to be able to talk with the children is when things are happening in the society. So sometimes when a celebrity, something happens with a celebrity or something is in the news, that can be a way of starting a conversation with your children about that. Again, if they're going out there, one way or the other, they're hearing about everything and they're discussing everything with their friends. And sometimes, a lot of times they may be getting information that are not quite right. Because I've been doing this a lot with my children over the years, a lot of times my son will come in and go, oh yeah, this friend said this and that about this and that, and I'm like, oh okay, yeah, let's discuss this right now, because I need to correct a couple of things that you just said right now that your friend told you that it's not quite right. So it is important to be able to have those kinds of discussion where when things are happening within the community, in the society, it's on the news, it's, because they are seeing it too. They are going through that too. You want to be able to make sure that they have the correct information. You want to be able to check in and see how that's affecting them too. I've had a couple of things where I have my daughter go, I hate, I'm like, whoa, 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 roll that back. Let's discuss what that exactly means, because I know that I heard her saying that because she's been hearing all, every other person out there saying something like that. It can be, a song, a celebrity, or whatever. But it's about, oh yeah, yeah. Let's go over what does that mean. Why do you say that? Is that something personal to you or something you heard out there? But use that time when things are happening, or when you hear something that they say that has to do with the outside world, to really stop and have a conversation with them about that. Correct what needs to be corrected. Check in with their emotional well-being. Check in with how they're feeling and doing about certain things, and make sure that they do understand, or at least they're able to express themselves, process what's going on, and then be able to have a better understanding of what's going on with them. Again, if you don't do it, it either sits there and turn into something else, or somebody else out there, society out there will do it for you, and sometimes it's not going to come out the way that you want to. Another way also to be able to help connect with the children in terms of their emotional health is to surround them with others that are healthy for them. Have other people in your life that you know that your children can always go to if they can't come to you. Whether you like it or not, as a parent, there might be certain discussions that your children may have a hard time coming to you right away about. Unfortunately, we've had situations where some children did not feel, children, teenagers, and others did not feel that they have an avenue, or they have a person that they can go to discuss certain difficult questions, situations, emotional burdens, etc. And they felt hopeless. They felt that they could not deal with those issues on their own or get the help that they need. And we've seen this lead some to committing suicide. We've seen this really affects a lot of children in so many damaging ways. So, and some of it can be, has to do with our culture. It can be, family things. It can be, there are so many different reasons. That's not the point. But the point is, do whatever it takes to work hard to surround your children, to surround yourself with people that your children can feel okay going to when they feel like they have a difficult conversation that they can't come to you for. Might be because they feel certain things about it. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing in terms of you and your child. But because, again, as parents, there are certain things, that whether we like it or not, will be difficult for our children to talk with us about. And think about it for yourself too. There are certain things that may have been difficult to go to your parent right away to discuss, because you don't want to shatter their expectation of you, or you just don't want to make them feel bad, or you don't know how to talk to your parent about it. But if they have somebody else that they can at least go to, and down the road that will come back to you, the things, these are people that will help guide them and bring it back to the parent, as needed. But you want to be able to surround your children with those. I have some of my friends where we do that. My children know that no matter what, if there's ever a time in your life you feel like, something is happening and you can't right away come to me, I hope they will. But if you can't, here are some of these people that you can always go to. And I know they will never lead them wrong. And, they will be there for them. I have some of my friends that their kids do that from all over the world. I get phone calls sometimes where we're able to discuss certain things. And I ask questions. I go through some things with them. But it makes me feel good. It makes me feel happy that I can be able to be there for some of these young people to talk about certain things that they quite yet cannot go to their parents about. So you want to surround yourself with that kind of tribe, those kinds of people. It can be one, two, three, four, or more people that your children can be able to go to. One, it can be a one-time thing. It can be once in a while where something comes up where it's going to take a while before it gets to you. But they know there's always that safe place, that safe person that they can go to and discuss. Okay? Also, sometimes we have resources around us that we're not utilizing, in our schools, in our communities, in our churches. If there are some programs that are being put in that deals with emotional health, mental health, make use of those. Even if it is, classes or programs that you may think your child may not need right away because they're not going through certain things. It's okay to let them go through that. I've worked with certain churches where we had like grief and loss groups. We've had some mental health programs, some emotional health programs that we did some classes, some things. We've done it with schools. We've done it, like I said, churches. We've done it with communities. And by the way, if you don't have any, ask in that community, in that church, can we have something like that? That's one of the things we discussed in the conference today. How do we get a lot of these programs, some of these programs that will benefit our young ones, that will benefit different people in the churches, the men, the young men? How do we bring those in? Because these are topics, or these are things that are very, very important part of life, but we really don't discuss them, because we have certain thoughts and feelings about them. So if there are ones already set, I've worked with in different schools where we brought in trauma programs, and we had it either as classes or programs to, for those of them that have gone through traumatic things, but also for those of them that just need to know. We've worked with teachers, we've worked with leaders in the church on different areas, and we've done this all over the world. So this is very important when you have it in your community, when you have it in your church, when you have it in your schools, when you have it in your neighborhood. Definitely sign up your children in that. Sign up the whole family. Make sure they learn from it. Make sure you get something out of it that can be very helpful in working with your young ones. So it's very, very important to utilize those resources that are around. And there's more and more of them. And if there are ones that you can think of, ask about it. Ask, and that be brought in either in the schools, in the churches, in your place of worship, in your neighborhoods. That can be helpful. Bring it up. And you'll be surprised to see that, some health professionals, some mental health professionals will be very happy to put together those kinds of programs. So if you have any in your community, sign up for it. Sign up your children for it, because they will get a lot from that. They will learn a lot from that. So definitely pay attention to that. And also, with your children, start paying more attention in terms of what's, if you check in on other things, start asking them about their emotional health. And yes, some of them are going to roll their eyes. Yes, some of them are going to look at you like, oh, why is she asking? Why is he asking? That's okay. And like I said, some of them are going to feel awkward, but it's okay. Ask those questions. Ask about stress. We'll talk about, emotional issues. That's okay. Last two parts, okay? Actually, last one. Take care of yourself. Work on your own issues. A lot of us, for a lot of us parents, we have some things that we are dealing with in our own lives. It can be trauma, it can be childhood stuff, it can be stress from work, it can be stuff in our own marriages, it can be anything. There's a lot of other things that we are dealing with that take so much space in our lives that it makes it somewhat difficult to pay attention to what's happening to our own children. And I always tell parents, it's not because you don't want to pay attention. It's not because you don't want to see what's happening with your children and you don't want to take care of it. It's just that we have so much going on and we have not taken time to deal with our own issues. When we have our own issues, a lot of it, especially generational stuff, especially other stuff we've gone through that have clogged, that really taking space in our lives, it makes it difficult to see what's happening with somebody else, let alone the younger ones, especially the younger ones that cannot express themselves yet or have not figured out the language or know how to express themselves. It becomes more difficult for us to notice that. So, and for a lot of us, we are not going to see it. We are not going to be able to take notice of what's happening with the younger ones in our lives if we don't take time to deal with what's going on in ours. So I encourage you to take some time and deal with your own issues, get the help that you need to work through, process, deal with the issues in your life, the stress in your life that is getting in the way of you seeing what's happening or knowing how to work with your young ones in terms of what's happening in their own lives. You will see a difference. It will really make a difference for you if you're able to do that. So I encourage you to do that. And again, ask me questions. Talk to people around you who can be able to help. And like I said, a lot of things we can deal with on our own. But when you're not able to do that, there is no problem and no shame in getting the extra help that you need from a professional. There's a lot of good ones out there. Seek them out. So I hope you got something out of this. But the main thing out of all this is take some time to deal with or work with your young ones on emotional and psychological things that are happening with them. Give them the space, give them the time, give them the voice to be able to bring up and deal with difficult things, emotional things, psychological things that they are going through. Give them that. Till I see you next time, stay well and be well.